All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sporting Chance podcast. Be sure to check out sportingchancepod.com for all your flyest new Sporting Chance pod merch. If you're anything like me, you struggled for a while trying to find a source for performance canines. Well, look no further. Check out Clover Creek Canine on Facebook for your performance canine needs. For your East Coast and micro hawking needs, hit up mountainstatefalconrysupply.com. If you want to be cool like me this hunting season and fly a parent-reared goshawk, there's virtually no other source but our boy Seth Roy. Go to northmountaingoshawks.com to put your deposit down on next year's hunting partner. And while you're at it, go ahead and put an order in with the King of Tight, Richard Moats, maker of the tightest braided equipment at midnightfalconry.com. Camryn Finnan, welcome to the Sporting Chance podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's really great of you to come on. We followed each other on social media for a little bit, and you look like you're doing some cool stuff, and I gathered along the way. So for those of you out there who don't know, she is a dog trainer with a background in training anti-poaching dogs in South Africa. So pretty unique, Cool stuff. We're looking forward to hearing more about it. But today you were at a friend's house and you were helping her whelp some game-bred pit bulls, you were telling us.
Well, I was hoping to help whelp, but Jumanji decided to pull the trigger a little bit early, and owning my pet training company, I couldn't heal away as quickly as I was hoping to. So I got here today. The pups are looking super awesome. There's 4 girls, 4 boys. So we got it even numbers. And they're gorgeous. Litter. Yeah, first litter for mama, first litter for dad. They decided the timing that was all on them. We were kind of thinking that this would happen a little bit later down the line, but Harry is this stud, and he's very dedicated man, so he gets things done. And I mean, more power to him. He's an incredible dog. He is an incredible dog. So, and Jumanji, I mean, more power to the bitch. She is from the crop. So I really like her. Again, their balance, their ability to live pack life and, hang out with kids and hang out with livestock and hang out with all kinds of dogs of shapes and sizes. My Chihuahua, my Mastiff, intact males, intact females, we all kumbaya hang around here. And, now we got 8 clones. So we'll see. Terry's a little bit of a tyrant. We'll see what he did. He definitely threw some things in there that we were expecting and some things we weren't. So I'm excited to see how they all kind of develop.
So I have some questions for you, and hopefully you can clear this up for me.
We'll see.
Growing up, I call, all dogs that looked like that were pit bulls. And, I've come to learn that there's a bunch of different types that are like American Staffordshire. I guess there's American Pit Bull Terriers. There's isn't there like an English Staffordshire? So
a lot of there's a lot of propaganda out there surrounding just the word pit bull. So it's funny because I'm sure everyone knows, like, we have the Facebook memories that pop up, and for any of us kind of like end of 90s, early 2000s kids, like, we've had social media for a while. So in my Facebook, I have a lot of memories that pop up from my youth and my strong feelings and beliefs of the propaganda that I was being spoon-fed in California, in the rescue world, and, with all of that. And I was that little kid out there on the street being like, pit bulls are nanny dogs and all that fun stuff. And, I had a lot of passion for it. I mean, my personal dog, Tunza, she's my first dog. I got her around the time that I was, kind of 12-ish, I think. And I was going through some like mental health stuff. So she absolutely saved my life, gave me a reason to live, gave me a reason to go to the park, hang out train. And I walked around telling people about pit bulls and how they weren't what everyone cracked them up to be. And it was more in how you raised them than genetics. And, now I fast forward and look at those Facebook memories and I'm like, oh, okay, we might just not share that. That's not, those aren't facts. And, and those are things that I definitely believed were facts at one point. So, I understand the misinformation that's been out there, and I understand having to evolve and having to redefine my knowledge and my belief of the dogs in front of me. And so, would I call Tunza a pit bull today? No, I would not. I would call her a bully breed mutt, and that's what I would call every single thing that comes out of a shelter. And then you want to take her and put her next to these true game bred American Pit Bull Terriers that I now have the privilege of experiencing and being around and all of those things. And just, they're different. It's its own breed. It's not an umbrella breed, as so many people would like to say that Pit Bull is an umbrella term for all of these different sub breeds or whatever, Staffordshire, this, that, and the other. They're bull breeds. We have the bulldog, kind of genre going. But at the end of the day, the American Pit Bull Terrier, it is its own thing, and it was created for its own thing. And what I think is really cool nowadays. Sorry, go ahead. I can talk forever, so please interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. We love it. We love it when our guests talk, because sometimes it's like pulling teeth. No, it's good, because sometimes we got to really get it out of them. But you have a lot to say, and we love that. But I'm just curious, because everybody says, okay, they're a nanny dog to protect kids. Then you watch the movie White Fang, and they're they're breeding them to fight. So what were they bred for, and what are they being primarily used for now? If I know it may not be your.
And like I said, I can call Boss Lady in here right now, and she will come tell you everything she knows. But we might need 2 podcast episodes for that. So, because that girl can talk too. We are passionate people. So without misspeaking, I'm not going to speak on things that I'm not fully feeling like I know about. But from my understanding of pit bulls, kind of generalize the information here because I don't know the details. Again, could get Ashton in here. But from what I understand is the pit bull, American Pit Bull Terrier, came out of bulldogs and, baiting breeds that were going towards, more gladiator type combat, right? Like putting them in with other livestock or other animals and things like that. I do know that there was mixed breeding that came down in and narrowed it down into the American Pit Bull Terrier from the Bull Terrier, from other bulldogs and things like that. But I'm not a genetics person, breeder. Again, I'll grab Ashton. She'll give you all the lines and names and everything, kennel names and all that, right? But then once that breed was developed and did exist, that entertainment of dogfighting came in, and it was something that, obviously caught a lot of people's attention. So they continued to develop the breed into lines that, yes, 100% genetically, those dogs love to fight. It is not even and this is something, this is totally not what we were going to talk about on this podcast, but this is something that I have 1000% learned just from being in the presence of Ashton. So I said this earlier, I personally do have the belief that the original use of American Pit Bull Terriers, game bred Pit Bull Terriers as dogfighting, I do believe that is outdated. And I do believe that genetic component of dogs enjoying a fight of that caliber, it's, in my opinion, outdated and unnecessary for today's society and for today's age. Obviously, there are a lot of really passionate people that want to breed for preservation, and that includes the history, right? And there's a lot of people that with the history. They want to be proving their dogs. Again, something I don't partake in, not something that I find, enthralling personally. I feel it's outdated and unnecessary. I have had unstable bully breed types, pit bull types, and I've dealt with my fair share of dog fights. I don't know if you can see my bumpy hand there. That's a nice lump of you can see it, of scar tissue from a pit bull. So anyways, actually, Ashton would come in here and get upset if I called that dog a pit bull. She's not a pit bull. She's a cur. We know. But anyways, so with all that being said, right, like not my cup of tea. But as the breed, yes, they did establish this breed for the combat of dogfighting. These dogs love this shit. I have watched these puppies come out, and we're probably going to see it happen here with this litter. And as soon as they're mobile, as soon as they're going around, they are practicing and going through the motions of fighting their siblings. And this is something that I observed with Ashton, with one of the litters that I've been around with her. I watched this mama dog like playing with her puppy, but it was a legitimate fight. The only difference was the bite inhibition in the interaction. If the mama dog had put any more pressure into the bites she was giving with the motions and the energy she was giving, it would have been a dog fight. But it was fully a game for this puppy and for mama. They were having a blast. They were having a great time, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense.
And that's them.
Yeah. I just like some things stuck out, like jumped out. I know this is not your specialty, and I know we're kind of putting you on the spot, but
Okay.
when you say pit bull terrier, the word that stands out to me is terrier. And I feel like every terrier loves a fight.
Oh my gosh. If people respected that of the breed, if people weren't so obsessed with this pit bull, like, oh dear great heavens, just call it a bull breed. Call it a bully breed, bull breed, bulldog. But the terrier is what makes it the American Pit Bull Terrier. And when it comes to my thought on like the shelter world and the pet dog world, and then all these dogs that we see coming out of these shelters that are pit bull this, pit bull that, pit bull this, pit bull that. First of all, ain't nobody in a pet home need a pit bull. Okay. Second of all, you need an American bully breed. You need an American bully. Go get you a nicely bred, and please ask for help because I will help you find a nice breeder of bully breeds. America. Anyways, but get an American bully breed, because those have the off switch. Those have the chill side to them, the family softness. And I'm not saying pit bulls don't. Like I said, these dogs coming from Ashton's kennels, they are true and tested in every environment, every setting ever, babies, all of the animals. And, they know when a game is a game and when a game is not a game. And so at the end of the day, when you have your dog, when you're a serious person with serious dogs, you can make that be your rhythm in life. But pet people, please just go get an American bully. Like, you need a pet quality American bully breed, not a pit bull.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they even need that?
Yeah. Right. If they want street cred, they do. It's just this thing with pit bulls, and it's just like any other breed. And I got a friend of mine, Tyler. He wants me to. He's breeding a very good line, a litter that he's very excited about, of Yog Terriers. And Yog Terriers have a very very they have like a reputation, like just call it a reputation. It's sometimes some people love them, some people think they're just going to kill everything, but at the end of the day, just like a Malinois. They require a specific person to deal with that kind of bird. Same thing with us. This is a falconry podcast. I fly goshawks. Some people fly Harris hawks. A Harris hawk is like the golden retriever. A goshawk is like, a Yog Terrier, pit bull terrier. They're like, they require a specific kind of a person to deal with their quirks and work with them. So you're basically saying that the average person on the street has no business having any dog like that unless they're like trained or took a course or something like that, because it's just going to end bad.
My question is, though, even having that dog.
Right. And so this is also where I was having a conversation the other day with somebody who was talking about breeding or taking an American Pit Bull Terrier back into their American Bully lines. And I just was like, why? Like, just let it be its own thing. You don't need any of that heat. You don't need any of that sauce. And you're like, I understand creating like working line American Bullies, like, okay, go off. But again, it's a niche almost. And I also think, like, you know, as much as, and this is a whole nother topic, but as much as we have these dogs, because why do we have dogs living in our homes? Well, they have evolved over thousands of years into hundreds of breeds to do different jobs for us. And what does it take to do a job? Clear communication, right? Even if it's Spanglish, you have to have a common language. And I think that with the different caliber of dogs, your relationship, your success with those different caliber of dogs is a reflection of your ability to create clarity in your relationship, right? So through language, right? Through a common language. And so if you're capable of creating that relationship and having that clarity, then yeah, more power to you, right? Serious dogs for serious people. But if you're not serious, don't try to make a square peg going a round hole. Like, I personally don't want a puppy from this litter. I personally have Borbles now, you know. I have a Patterdale Terrier. He's, you know, the softer side of a Yag, and I enjoy that he has a little bit of a softer side to him. He's not gonna
barely softer, just like maybe
but
a little
again,
bit.
yeah. And again, like for me personally, it's the dog aggression. Like when the dog I got into the sport world with was my bully breed. She's blue, so we won't even dare call her a pit bull. But she is the dog I got into sport and everything with. An absolute phenomenal dog, taught me amazing things, has gone through hell and high water with me. But, you know, at this point in my career and in how I, you know, want to live my life, I don't enjoy having her out and about with what I have going on because she's just that much to manage. She's always having a dumb idea. And if you're not right there to be like, that's not happening, she's like, oh, I can make it happen. Cool. Let me just take the liberty. And again, like, could I gain more clarity with her if I was willing to really put my foot down on, hey, that is not an acceptable way to act? Yeah, of course. But I personally don't like applying that much conversation to a dog because I don't just fucking knock it off. Like, I just literally won't have you in the situation if you're going to keep making these dumbass decisions because I have a lot of things to manage and I can't be all up on your ass. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Have better ideas.
Most
So personally, I've moved away from it. Yeah.
Yeah. The average person doesn't necessarily have the time or the skill set to deal with what you need.
Management always fails.
It's a huge commitment to have a dog. And I see videos all the time. And like you were saying with the propaganda, when you were saying propaganda, I thought you were referring to like that they're going to like rip a kid's face off. But you're actually talking about the opposite propaganda where they're all sweet right. and they're a nanny breed and they're misunderstood.
Right.
And I kind of like.
It's all in how you raise them.
It's all, yeah, right. But you can raise them as good as you want, but they still have a tendency in them.
Right.
Like, for example, I had a friend of mine come over.
It's fun for them.
Yeah, it's fun for them. And for example, I had a friend come over and we were doing a training exercise and we had a couple rats that we were using. And I cut the dog that Aaron gave me loose, a purebred, beautiful dachshund, on the rat. And she ran up to it, grabbed it, kind of like mouthed it, was kind of not shaking it. And then, you know, I picked her up, you know, she didn't kill it. And then my buddy, Tom Cullen, puts his Patterdale down and it's like maybe 2 months younger, 3 months younger, runs over to the rat, immediately grabs it and shakes it and kills it like instantaneously. And I'm like, there is like, it's just such a difference in like the genetics of each dog. And if you're not ready for that or you can't handle it, then don't get the dog. And a Patterdale is a completely different thing, but a Pit Bull Terrier,
in my opinion, only in the age of the breed, right? The more primitive the breed has had far more years of that being its job, being bred for that. Dachshunds, like, they're in that timeline, you know, not by much, but still.
They will absolutely do that job as if you see our social media, we rat with dachshunds. And
Yeah.
Casey did that when the dog was a little puppy. But what he's saying is the Patterdale was even younger and it was further along than that.
Yeah,
But
from those
Patterdales are another,
genetics just being ingrained.
yeah. Patterdales are another one that it's like, if you're not going to do work with it, I do not think you should own that dog.
Yeah.
I'm just like, if you want a pet dog, get a pet dog. Don't get a working breed as a pet dog.
Even Jack Russells,
Right.
dude. My neighbor, I grew up in this like residential neighborhood, and we had one neighbor like 5-6 blocks away from us, and she had a Jack Russell. And same thing. It's just a Jack Russell. Everyone's got one. She had this like double layered 2-collar electric fence on this dog because it kept running through the electric fence and chasing people's dog down the road.
Right.
And it just kept doing that all the time. And it's like, I don't think you understand what you got. Like, it's a terrier. It's like, it wants to work and you're not working it.
Well, and that takes me in, if we're going into the pet dog conversation of things, like, because I do own my own pet company, and
people ask me if dachshunds make good pets because I breed dachshunds, and I say no. Dachshunds do not make
big
good.
behavior mod that I had was a miniature dachshund who looked like a piece of raw rotisserie chicken. So, fully like just chicken breast type of guy. And he was a punk ass, he was cussing at his mama for all kinds of things. And, so that takes me into like with pet dogs, right? With these working breeds. Cause again, why do we live with predators in our home? It's because they have evolved over all of these years into breeds to do jobs for us. And regardless of where they're at, they are looking for leadership and direction from the people in their world. And if there isn't that clear, he's driving the bus, then they're going to start trying to drive. And we all know dogs can't drive. So that just goes terribly. So with all of that, I get so many clients. A lot of my clients come in with dogs that have severe anxiety, dogs that have reactivity, which I'll get into that in a second because I think that term is really funny. But, dogs that like I've shown up at the animal shelter and they've walked out and said, this dog is 10 minutes from getting put down. Should we put it down or not? And I've taken the leash and gone, he's fine. What are you doing? It's just his genetics and lack of communication have now created a routine of interaction that freaks y'all out because you don't know what you own. First week I had that dog, we were working on, his name's Bo, Mr. Bo. And he's a crotchety old man. He has his own quirks and things, but at the end of the day, the behaviors that they were scared of from him were simply coming from a bully breed type dog who wanted to bite, thrash, and have high prey drive and enjoy those things. And his targeting was absolute shite. And the first time I started introducing playing with toys and, interacting and getting those feelings and giving those genetics a direction and an outlet, he was not aiming. He was like, we're using my mouth. Freaking awesome. He came right up and ruined one of my favorite t-shirts by completely under boobs cutting me open. That wasn't out of him trying to maul me or bite me or intentionally have a go at me. It was just off of, I want to use my mouth. I want to bite. I want to play. I want to thrash. And God help me, I'm going to get whatever you have and I'm not going to care what I'm aiming at. I just want to use my mouth. And that, at the end of the day was just his genetics. And now that dog comes for day camp weekly. He comes for boarding. He romps with my Chihuahua and my intact Mastiff and he does all kinds of stuff. And, does he need to be managed around the male dogs and, a little bit more serious dogs? Yes. You put a goofy intact male in front of him, he don't care. He'll body slam him around and have a good time and not use his mouth, So again, that dog was literally on death's door and now he lives an absolutely amazing life and his owners can respect him in his communication, not just in being able to read it, but also being able to be a part of that conversation. And when he goes, hey, I'm having this feeling, they now have the skills to go, cool. I'm not doing that. We're going to do this instead, And that's my whole mission statement with my company is creating clear communication with clients and their pets, right? It's a language.
Are you like Caesar Milan? You train the people, not the dogs?
Wait, is that what Caesar said he does?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know about
No,
all
I
that. You
mean,
ever watch Caesar Milan? That boy is just body checking and proning everybody.
Dude, I think that my favorite clip of Caesar of all time, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a dachshund guy, but that nasty little dachshund when it attacks him and bites the crap out of his hand, and then he pins it on the ground, and then it's like looking at him like with its eyes bugging out of his head, and it's so funny because the dog never had any discipline like that before. It just got whatever it wanted, and if it bit somebody, everybody would run away. And this guy just grabs it and pins it on the ground. Its eyes are bugging out of its head. It's like, what the heck is this? And he's like, it's so funny. I love it.
His match.
Oh, dude, it's been forever. That.
Oh, I used to, dude, I worked when I was a little teenager working in like different doggy daycares and stuff. I worked in a doggy daycare that was cage free. Okay. This was like 3 different rescues, a doggy daycare. The fan fell again. That's so annoying. But this was like an insane warehouse that had like on a really busy day, like 200 dogs just roaming all throughout the property. And we were just like loosey-goosey in there. With them all, and basically, we were told to just walk around and everybody in the flank if something went crazy. Got my first dog bite there by a dog named Jake the Snake.
That's a great name.
It's because he would literally slither in, snatch your ass, and then he'd slither out and go hide in a back corner.
Yeah, we have a Jake the Snake that's a friend of the show, and he's from Kansas. Great guy. Good guy.
Nice.
That's a little inside joke for the listeners.
So, Cam.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier you have a Borbal. Tell us about Borbals.
Oh man. Okay. Let me think. So my whole fascination with Borbals comes from having been born in South Africa. My dad was raised in and out of South Africa and Zimbabwe, and basically growing up, he would tell me stories about Borbals that he had known, and I always would Google them and think they were the coolest breed, And of course, at that time, I'm looking at Google, and there's these big, massive, like heavy 200-pound dogs that are just looking big and squishy. But, it stuck with me. It was always kind of in the back of my mind. But I always was on the bully breed rescue train, adopt, don't shop, like that whole, like I was indoctrinated. And then, so when I did get into the working dog world, this kind of all ties together because obviously having been born in South Africa, that is something that just is always kind of going to be like an innate pull. You once you connect with Africa, it is hard to get her out of your skin. So from a very young age, I felt that connection. And then once I was going into like, well, what do I want to do as a career? The opportunity kind of came into reality and everything. I had actually ended up going to school as an animal control officer, again, learning all about like how to bust up dog fighting rings and how to notice this and we watched like those real videos of like, this is a real dog fight and here is a backyard dog fight. And that was crazy to watch too, because again, back then my knowledge on genetics and the true reality of dogs and why they exist wasn't in my forefront at that moment. And so I have this distinct memory of watching these clips of this backyard, just like scratchy, I'm going to make my dogs fight for like street cred type fight where they're like posturing the dogs for the dogs and they're creating the body language out of the dogs to instigate a fight. And just the vocalizations and the fear and the running of those dogs. And then go to the clip of the actual game bred pit bulls and the silence and the intensity and the intent and the joy that even the dog on the ground, he is just wagging his tail, having a good time. And this other dog is he's just like having a great time, loving his life. And the difference, and I was like, whoa, okay, there's something that's different. Like that parallel was really interesting to experience. So anyways, animal control officer, got back to South Carolina, they were like, we don't give a shit about animal control officers. Like, fuck a stray. So I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, I did all of this schooling and I'm like a nationally certified dog animal control officer. Like, what the hell? And before all of that, I came from the horse world. I'm sure everyone can kind of, or a lot of people can relate going from horses into dogs. But going from horses into dogs, like, I thought it was going to be animal control. It didn't work that way. And around that time, I met a girl named Ashley Derrickson, who's an amazing trainer in Virginia. And she hired me to do, because I'm also a photographer. So she hired me to do photography for IGP trial. And that's where I got my foot in the door with, Schutzen and all of that stuff. And so from there, that I started with my little blue bully breed. She was a total pancake dog and, turned into a really awesome working dog. And that was a really cool evolution, but I was always stuck on the bull breeds. I always had those bully breeds and pit bull types, whatever you want to call them. So when it came to the point of, I'm actually going to get my own dog, because you always screw up your first dog, right? So I was just getting that out of my system with with Lola, my first dog. And when I finally decided, okay, I'm ready to like get my own dog and do what I want to do, I'm not a herder person, okay? I have the personality of a Malinois, okay? And if you put me in the room with one for too long, it's just, it's gonna be like a tornado. The energies are just too much to match, man. So, I just have not.
That's Aaron's favorite breed. Aaron loves Malinois.
Yeah,
This
don't
is his
put me in
favorite
the
breed.
room with one, please. Like, oh my gosh, Ashley actually knows this firsthand, because when I was getting into the working dog world, she has Argos, her absolute amazing, incredible foundation stud, and he loved my energy because, like, crackhead. And so he would dig the dirt out from under my feet. I would be standing somewhere and he would just start digging my feet out from under me, and he would just follow me around and stare at me. And at a certain point, no, literally, I'd be like, Ashley, go get your freaking dog, bro, because I can't. You better. And she'd have to go put him in a downstay over on the other side of the room, and I had to go decompress. So not for measies. Not my cup of tea. So again, what do I get, right? Like, what am I, like, everyone in this world has those breeds. So what do I get? I did look at giant schnauzers for a second, but my heart always came back to Borbles. And of course, everybody was like, you're not going to get what you want out of a Borble. They're not a working breed anymore. Like, they don't exist, like, blah, blah, blah. But I like to make my life as hard as possible. So
I was almost killed by a Borble one time.
nice. I had that experience with the Dogo Argentino.
Those are incredible dogs as well. Very incredible. My wife is Argentinian, so
he was incredibly unstable, and his owner was incredibly irresponsible. So that was a fun match.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, those are two breeds that are the last thing you want to see coming back from the supply house in the dark, walking through somebody's backyard.
I'll do you one better. This guy had his untrained, nude as a brand new puppy, no, nothing, not even a flat collar, nothing, running around a cul-de-sac where there were definitely children's bikes and toys. So there were kids in the neighborhood. Loosey-goosey, untrained completely. This was the consult that I did when I was, starting out as a dog trainer and still went to people's houses like a crazy person. But showed up there. He cut this dog loose. It like came flying up at me, a whole thing. So yeah, he was fun. He just let his dog do whatever it wanted. And then yeah. So anyways, but yeah. So Borbles, anyways, ended up doing a lot of research. I did come across, dichotomy Borbles. I was able to talk to Tashi, and she was amazing to kind of give me that hope back that, oh my gosh, we can have a working line Borble. Like they do exist. It's just only one breeder, but who cares? Like they exist, we can do something with that. And then through there, I was able to find my breeder, and they obviously were connected and working to put more working line Borbles out there. So it all kind of came together, and I was able to get my boy. And man, going from shelter bull breeds to a like custom ordered, well-bred, purebred, well-raised puppy was quite the experience. I absolutely, all of my clients, I'm like, dude, someday in your life, you need to get a well-bred dog and just experience the difference of bringing that animal home and just the quality of what you've got. I literally put my order in and she was like, this is the dog you're getting. I was like, but that one's cute. I don't like that. She's like, I don't care. That's your dog. I was like, okay, fine. I'm fine with that. Amazing. Incredible. Stop trying to pick your own fucking dogs. Let the breeders do it. They know what they're doing. They're doing this like amazing.
So for those out there who don't know what a Borbal is, can you describe a Borbal without somebody Googling it?
Yeah. So, well, if you Google it, you'll end up seeing a lot of showline Borbals, which won't look very similar to what my male looks like. And you would say that my male has more hound type lines. It's more functional, honestly. So a Borbal is a South African Mastiff, right? And so with it being a South African Mastiff, the name Borbal translates in Afrikaans, I believe, to directly to farmer's dog, and that is their developed purpose, right? They are the dogs that you want to have in your as your property guardians. They can do livestock work, both LGD and herding. They have been known to multitask. Obviously, predator control. A big element of the working Borbals is stamina and longevity. I know dichotomy Borbals works hard, real hard to have put longevity in the lines, and I know that Rumbell Borbals or Rumbell farm dogs, my male's breeder, also breeds with lines that have longevity in their lifespan, as well as stamina and endurance in those things, without losing too much of the true Borbal look, right? So when you Google a Borbal, there's a big wide chest and you got the wet jowls and, typical markings are going to be like your fawn and black mask. My male would get mistaken on the street for a Pressa or uncropped Cane, young Cane type. But without the mush face. He has a very dry lip, or what is it called? Dry mouth. I don't know. But he don't drool as much as those big, ugly, slobby ones do. So that I love. He works in all of the weather. He is, I think I just weighed him and he came in at 107 point something. So again, like smaller in the realm of showline Borbals, but absolutely perfect when you're sending him down the field or you're asking him to hurdle something, or you're asking him to, trot along with you for miles on end, checking fence line.
So those dogs were bred. I'm sorry, Aaron. So those dogs were bred in South Africa. It's a South African breed.
They are a South African breed, yes. And they have their own registry, the SAAB, South African, or South SABA, I would say. I think I'm so bad at these things. I need acronyms.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're South African Borbal Association, and all of that. But they are a South African breed, yes. Short answer.
And they were obviously, you said farmer's dogs, so they were bred to have to potentially deal with like the big African predators and to deal with
lions,
trespassers.
Leopards. Right, trespassers for sure. In your rural South Africa, you have a lot of farm crimes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with farm crimes, but they are rampant.
Very bad.
Yeah. Tell us more about farm crimes.
So I'm not, the all knowledgeable on it. I have, spoken to plenty of people who have survived those situations and have family that have been in those situations. I personally have family that have been in robbing situations. Why we moved out of South Africa. We kept getting broken into, and people coming home to the smell of people having been in your house, more than coming home to like maybe actually people there. But definitely have had close family friends that have gone through those types of situations. And just within my time in South Africa, I'm sorry.
Seriously, what do you mean the smell? Like, are people like going in there,
Like,
like
no, but
using the
you know,
bathroom
like
in your
just
house?
like
Or
you
like,
know how everyone has their own like smell. Like if you lose your jacket on the playground, you go and sniff and find your jacket. Like everyone has their own smell. When you walk into your house
okay,
and you know someone has like their own smell, it's not your smell. It's been there. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely.
I think
I
maybe
don't know.
you're.
Maybe
I think you were like half dog yourself. I think picking up on
that
those
is very
smells.
true. I have believed I'm a dog since I was about, I think, 5 or 6 years old. I know for my 5th birthday, I did get a dog collar with my name and address on it
Oh, that's cute.
and a leash. So I've been living the life.
So I have a question for you, and it's a little controversial, but I just want to know your opinion on it. There's a lot of back and forth at
Totally.
literally at this particular time. You're talking about crime, farm crimes that are going on.
Right.
Is that a conspiracy theory, or is that a real thing? What's going on in South Africa right now, or what was going on, or what has been going on?
Be more specific. They've always got a bunch going on.
Basically, and I don't have any agenda here. I'm just asking a question because I've been seeing it come up in conversation on multiple different podcasts and platforms about the the white South African.
they're giving white
Okay,
South
so
African.
so you're avoiding saying the black on white crime.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah, they're like taking the land, and there's all kinds of horrific crimes that are going on. Have you seen any of that? Heard of any of that?
That is right. No, that is by no means new. That has just been, South Africa's history. It was colonized by the Dutch. The whites came in and displaced and, overtook and victimized and created segregation. And I'm not sure if you guys are, fully up to date on apartheid and what that all looked like and things like that. But, just like America is stolen land, South Africa is stolen land, when it comes to the whites on that land. So there is a lot of tension and conflict between blacks and whites. There are a million different avenues of the problem. When we're talking specifically about black on white crime, that is pretty much our farm crime. From my understanding, there's significant amount of people like with me saying that I know who have like when I was in South Africa talking to my boss's wife, just talking and we kind of get into the conversation of her experiences, her friends' experiences. Every woman she knows has been sexually assaulted by a black man in that, kind of environment they're living in. There are a lot of intruders. There's a lot of people that are, looking to inflict what I would probably imagine feels like revenge, just for the things that they've been subjected to in their culture and in their experiences. So absolutely, like the rules are very where we look in America at the racism towards black people, there is a significant amount of conflict between black people towards white people in South Africa. So it is flipped for an American to look at it and go, whoa, that's backwards in the American view. But that is the facts. There's a lot of those crimes that are happening where it's specific to you're a white farmer and I'm going to come in and I'm going to, do what I want to do.
Okay, so that's not a conspiracy. That stuff does go on. Whether I understand the apartheid, and
I know
I'm
many
not, obviously I
people
don't.
who have been victim to that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, because it's like, listen,
Like,
when you go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I just, going back towards the dogs, I know plenty of people that you can't have your dogs be property defense dogs in that environment because they have this thing called two-step. It's a poison they'll throw over, and your dog goes 2 steps and dies because they'll poison your dogs. And people, and my uncle, like go through dogs because that people will just throw meat over. There are a lot of creative ways that people are trying to gain access to resources. There's a lot of different ways that people are going about trying to gain access to resources with the very limited resources they have available to themselves.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I just wanted your opinion on it. You know, if you grew up there, you're familiar with everything that's going on there.
Right. And when it comes to like my experience living in South Africa, I lived there for about 8 months when I was working and doing anti-poaching work. My experience growing up in South Africa is non-existent because of the age I was when I was removed and moved to when we all moved to America. I was very young. I think maybe 2 or 1, and my sister was a couple years older than me, and we had a lot of break-ins happening back to back, and my family decided that they needed to make a different decision for them. So I was raised in Northern California for 17 years and then came to South Carolina after my parents had an 80s themed house party and left with a house. So they moved to South Carolina, and I was like, guess I'll go too.
Okay. Yeah. No, thank you for speaking on that. I just, like I said, I don't have an agenda. I just wanted, because
Of course.
you got one.
I can only speak on what I know about, and I'm like, my brain is like definitely driven towards dogs, so that's kind of where all of my knowledge lies.
Quiet, Aaron.
Casey comes from an alt-right, conservative, white perspective, so just understand that's where he's coming from. So he wants to hear South Africa is dangerous for white people.
No, I like you see one news agency saying that the stuff that we hear about going on in South Africa is a lie, and then you have another news agency saying that it's real.
Right.
And I'm just asking somebody that is very familiar with South
real.
Africa.
Yes,
okay,
no,
that's
it's
all I
real.
wanted to know.
People are victimized. The black on white crime is incredibly difficult. I'll give you something else to fry your brain cells about. When it comes to getting hired in South Africa, and so say I had been raised and gone through school and education and everything in South Africa. Say I go through all of my school and I get all my certifications and I'm qualified for a job. And this is from my understanding. If a black person walks in and interviews for that exact same job and has none of the same training, teaching, nothing of that, that person gets the job.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's like reverse, I guess, racism. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know.
It's designed, again, from my understanding, it's designed to be giving more opportunities to the blacks because they are, not offered those like job opportunities, and they haven't been they've been suppressed, in apartheid and all of that, and so it is an endeavor to offer them the opportunities, but it does get very awkward when there's no qualifications that are, skill for the job or things like that. It's solely off of skin tone.
Understood.
Understood. So
it's a shame that people aren't living in harmony there, because at this point, all the white people there were born there as well. For them, obviously for the most part.
Right. So, well, there's a lot. It's the world.
Yeah.
Casey's got one more controversial question.
It's a lighter note to switch topics. But South Africa, I'm a UFC fan. Do you know who Dricus du Plessis is?
I don't.
You don't know? Oh, that's very disappointing. All right. Well, we'll continue. He's the UFC champion. He's UFC champion, and he trains and fights out of South Africa, and it's a pretty big deal because he's like the first African. He's a white guy, but he's the first African-born champion that didn't leave his country to train. He trains specifically out of South Africa and still became the champion, which is pretty interesting. But I just wanted to know. I don't know if you were like, oh, he's my neighbor. I don't know. I just, whatever. I just wanted to. Yeah, so let's change topics.
No, he's my cousin, man. Don't you know?
yeah. We all know each other. Whatever. All right.
White.
Aaron, take it away. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, I want to know about your experience there as an adult training anti-poaching dogs.
Yeah. Well, obviously, best experience of my life. Not only was it just an incredible way to like really kick off my career as a dog trainer, but it was something that really gave me a lot of confidence. And the people that I met there, to this day, I'm still in touch with them all. And as many years as it has been, I do plan on going back. It's just this pet company has taken a lot of my energy and time. So, I'm always aiming in the direction of returning and, continuing to work with the guys and all of that. But the people that I met there, absolutely next level quality people, man. I mean, just the passion and the dedication and the drive alone, and then just the quality time that I was able to actually have real intellectual, like deep conversations about things you wouldn't expect to be just talking about in the middle of the African bush with these guys, like waiting for the rhino to come down the road, whatever, like just really quality experiences, incredible people. And like I said, those people, like they really made me into they gave me the respect that I didn't expect. Like they were like, "You're a professional," and this was new. I was greener than a blade of grass going into this situation. In all reality, just going into how I ended up there. You'll always hear me say that the universe runs my life. She is in complete control. I am not. I am not holding the reins. I do what she points me in the direction of, and it works out. So when I finished as a animal control officer and realized that that wasn't going to be anything, I obviously went and met up with Ashley and was able to kind of get my foot in the door with the working dog world. Through that experience, I did do some learning and internship experiences here and there. But throughout I was actually just in a Hobby Lobby one day, and we had Argos with us. Shout out to Argos because he obviously made this happen, because Argos was being a good boy, just laying down. And this lady comes up and starts talking to him and to Ashley and us. So we're like looking for photo shoot props because we were doing a puppy photo shoot. And boom, she has a South African accent. And I'm like, whoa, hello, who are you? And she's like, oh, this is who I am, like, blah, blah, blah. I'm the NGO for a anti-poaching conservation group in South Africa. And I was like, well, isn't that interesting? That happens to be my life goal. And we chatted, and obviously I love to talk, and I'm passionate. So, she liked my energy and asked for my number, and we went our separate ways. And a little while later, she called me and said, hey, look, I want to offer you an internship in South Africa. I really like your passion. I really like your energy and your drive. I think you have a good idea of like how you're going to try to get where you're going. And I want to give you that bridge. Like, I want to help you out. And I was like, wow, that is incredible. Like, yes, please, thank you. um so fast forward, I did go to my parents were very adamant about getting a certification as a dog trainer. Just having that piece of paper that says I'm a dog trainer made them feel a lot more solid in that their child was going in a direction, I think. But of a legitimate career, I suppose, because it isn't, I guess, something that people really look at as a lucrative career. I think people miss that on job fair day. But once all of that was done, it was time. I went out to South Africa, and I did go there under the impression that I was going to be an intern under everyone. And there, I mean, first, getting there and everything, everyone's incredible, lovely, wonderful. We're doing our thing. There are some other kids there that are also, interns for I can't remember exactly what the name of the company was, but they teach you how to be a safari guide, which, by the way, if any of the listeners don't know, this is something you can do. You don't have to go from college to like a desk job or something. You don't even have to go to college. You can go do a gap year in South Africa and learn how to be an actual safari guide and track animals and guide people on their safari trip. And you stay for a year, and I never knew it was an option. And when I got there, that's what these kids were doing, and it was really cool. And so they were there learning also about the anti-poaching work. What I didn't expect was, with all of the knowledge I had just taken in from, going to this school and going around and training dogs and just being a loudmouth, passionate person that I am, there was a moment that we realized like I could just kind of share that wealth, share that information, share that passion. And so I was able to quickly move into the head trainer of a couple different units just in developing scent work, detection, man trailing, and article search, evidence retrieval, those types of things. At that point, my confidence in Bitcoin was not anywhere that I wanted to approach that. So outside of doing some back tie work and a little bit of grip development, I really didn't fuss with that all that much, which in reality, as an anti-poaching dog, we're not going to send our dogs into the bush after somebody. They all have pangas, which are big ass machete. So you're just going to decapitate your dog real quick. There's not really an application for that every time. You know what I mean? Where we really need the dogs is, yes, question in the front.
I have a question. So who funds that work that you were doing and that is continuing to go on there? Where does that money come from?
So they're what was her name? Oh my gosh, it was Canines 4, number 4 Africa, and she. I don't know what NGO means, but she was an NGO. And that seemed to me to be the person that would fundraise. She would raise awareness, do the galas, get the rich people excited about things. And I believe that is where then the money would come in from through those events and galas and fundraising endeavors. That's my understanding.
Okay. Just because this is a hunting show. My understanding, and I want your opinion on it because this is not my understanding,
no,
and I'm not saying
I know where you're going with it. Yeah.
Okay, so is that true or false, or what do you think? What are your opinions?
So conservation and trophy hunting, how those go together? Is that where your question's going? Yeah.
Is that a myth? Is that propaganda, or is that true?
I don't know. That needs education. It is something that needs to be cleared up. And if you do ever want to do a podcast with a boots on the ground guy, I'm sure I could get Carl from Pit Track to get on the phone with you. I'm sure Conrad from Canine Conservation would also love to jab on. He's a riot of a time, so you guys would probably have a blast. But those guys, they're incredibly passionate. They love to share information. So I'm sure I could get, if they have time and data, So, anyways, like when it comes to conservation and trophies hunting or hunting in general, right? There is this huge, we're here for the animals, don't kill any of the animals, all of that. What needs to be understood is that in Africa, these properties that have this wildlife, they're chopped up into blocks now. There are fences around everything. So you are in an unnatural environment when it comes to like the owners of those property, the managers of those reserves and stuff and farms and stuff, they need to manage the populations. And there are certain animals that their lives are sold, right, as a funding for conservation. There absolutely is a place for that. And that is needed because that is a huge income for conservation work. And again, I am a dog trainer. I am barely educated on hardly any of this stuff. It's just from experience and from speaking with boots on the ground people. But when it comes to, say you have a very elderly lion that is not producing in the pride anymore, he has been kicked out of his pride, a younger male or two have come in and overtaken that pride, and this lonely male is just roaming around. That is an animal that can be auctioned off, because at that point, their function in that ecosystem is coming to an end, and it's something that is worth something, and that worth can be used to pay our anti-poaching team, who wake up at 2 in the morning and 4 in the morning and all of these times throughout the night to go literally every day find each animal and make sure that we're not walking up on vultures, and checking fence lines, buying boots, buying them new boots that they can lace up with real lace and not have to stitch back together, backpacks that they can have water in, and things that they really genuinely need. A freaking long line for man trailing dogs. Mine got chowed in 3 months. And I was one of those cool biothane ones that were all the hive at that moment. But they're working with what they have. These guys are working. I think it's like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and they're grinding to the millstone, and they're our front line. They're the ones that are out there that are going to notice, hey, that spore there, that's new. That's not, oh, that hole in the fence, that's not from a warthog. That's from something else. Like, I've now got to investigate that. They are our front line, and they deserve to have quality gear and quality education to continue that battle, because it is a freaking battle, an uphill battle.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a complete nonstop issue that is dealt with over there. And yeah, I mean,
Right.
So like talking about at the beginning of the show, we're talking about propaganda on both sides, and we touched on a little bit of other propaganda. So the trophy hunting community, or like I like to put like the quotations trophy hunting, because, just killing a big animal, some people say is a trophy. I mean, me and Aaron talk about on this show. Me and Aaron talk about the show, like going down in South Carolina and catching a swamp rabbit with my hawk. Like, that can be a trophy to me because I've never done that before, and it's exciting and it's fascinating. But in America, we have the Pittman Robertson Fund, where when you buy a hunting license, when you buy ammo for your rifles or your guns, a percentage of that goes to the Pittman Robertson Fund that pays game and fish officers to do that job that you're referring to in South Africa. They don't have a Pittman Robertson Fund in Africa. It's basically paid by, and this is like, I don't know if this is my question, is that I don't know if it's propaganda or if it's true. The trophy hunting community or the African hunting safari community will like to say that the money comes from the dentist that shoots one lion and spends $150,000. A percentage of that money goes to fund anti-poaching operations that would normally not be funded. And I'm just trying to find out if is that true? Is it not true? You know what I mean?
So there are, when it comes to like anti-poaching units performing like contracts on different reserves, you have like privately owned reserves, right? Which is like essentially someone buys all of this land and they buy animals and they have animals on this land, and they have like the what's the word for it? The hotels and the resorts, and you come and have experiences there and yada yada. Like, there are privately owned, obviously, resorts like that, or properties. And then there are obviously also your like parks, right? Like Kruger National Park, right? Those are not owned just privately.
Right.
So again, not my forte of knowledge, but when it comes to the units I worked with, we were being hired by the property owner to protect that property and protect the animals and everything on that property, whether it was lions or aardvark. You know what I mean? It's so that we can be there to make sure that no poachers, meat poachers, or rhino, elephant poachers were coming in and performing those atrocities on our designated contracts.
Okay.
And so for example, like canine conservation would be contracted by different people to come or to have a unit of men living on their reserve. So we could visit a reserve that we have a couple of our guys living on there. And then we can go to someone else's property and also, go check them and see what they're up to. But we also could just go to the farmer next door who raises sheep and run around looking for snares from meat poachers. So there's a wide range of contracts that are actually fulfilled by the security teams.
But they're paid for by maybe one specific landowner, like where your check is coming from. There's no.
I wouldn't be able to tell you where their checks are coming from. I know that Canine Conservation and the Canines for Africa that I was, like for me personally, my flight and my sponsored internship or experience that I was given, that was paid for by the NGOs of Canines for Africa, and they paid for me to do that, and I didn't ask many questions about where that money was coming from.
And then you mentioned so that maybe that organization raised money like privately in the States to fund their operation.
Imagine.
Okay.
I would imagine they fundraise and then yeah, they would support the anti-poaching units.
Understood. Okay. And on average, I don't know if you know this information, but it's just pertinent, I guess, to the conversation. On average, like how large, when you say checking fence lines, are we talking, 300 acres? Are we talking 1,000 acres? Like, what are we, we're talking like miles and miles. What are we talking here?
I mean, I could look up where I was at, how many hectares or whatever they call them it was, but we're talking about like good thousands of acres of land. I mean, it's
Got it. Okay. Yeah. The whole thing in Africa is a fascinating subject. And to me right. Personally, I just find it so fascinating. And I read all these books.
No, it is. And for that to have been the, on the start of my career as a dog trainer, it was an absolute privilege. So like I mentioned before, right, like I was very green when I had shown up there, but I had a lot of new information that wasn't readily available to everyone there. And so that put me in a position that allowed me to play professional, for lack of a better term. And I remember like Conrad, like absolute legend of a man, he was like, you're the professional, you have the knowledge, you teach us. And that was the first moment, because again, this is me coming from trying to be an animal control officer and working as a groom on ranches and farms and stuff, and a horse person and dog trainer and all these different things. But now I'm in a position of actual like teaching, now I'm here gaining the respect of these men who are like, who's this little white girl? And like, I had hair past my butt, long haired, blue eyes, show up, all bouncy and happy to be there. And they're like, who's this, but amazing experience. There were a couple moments where I absolutely had to establish my, reason for being there and the respect that I needed in those moments. But like, as soon as those guys felt the passion that I had for what I was sharing with them, they were locked in. I mean, just let's go. What are we doing? I mean, through broken English and drawing in the sand and doing everything we had to do. I remember at one point, because at one point I had a partnership with Canine Medic, who I don't know if you're familiar with Canine Medic, but they're super awesome. They offer a lot of teaching and training to people on emergency medical response for dogs, especially working dogs. And I had an opportunity to integrate their curriculum into what I was working with, the unit I was with at the time. And there was a moment we were out there and I'm trying to make this I'm trying to go through the curriculum with them, and we're having a language barrier. And my boss's wife just comes out and puts a bowl of fruit on the table and is like, everyone just take a breather and eat, and we'll get back to it in a second, because we were like trying to make sense of how to translate things. And, but just being able to go through, like, just having them sitting there and being so thirsty for all of that information and having the opportunity to be a teacher really kicked me off into this as just my home as a person. You know, I love to teach. I love to talk about dogs. I love to talk about training. I love helping people make sense of things with their dogs and bridging that gap. So when I did come back to the States and I started working with pet dogs, it was a letdown with the lack of enthusiasm that you meet.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, that was a bit of a lurch. I definitely had to go through a learning curve of their standards are not your standards, Cam. So,
yeah,
but no,
that opportunity,
sorry.
that you had over there, that's something that I would say cannot really be orchestrated. That's something that is just
No,
a phenomenal opportunity for you, and that you got to experience that, and that is now
that
forever on
was
your
the
resume.
universe. Yes, that was the universe going, bitch, this is your direction. And I was, you know, again, like just, and the experience in itself obviously gave me a lot of, it gave me an awesome jump start into it. And, it was so rewarding. I did get stuck over there during COVID. So it was funny because like everyone was experiencing COVID over here. And I was like in the deep African bush, like going into town once a month. And I was like, oh, okay, we wear a mask now. Oh, cool. Like, cool. We go in, we get our things, we go back out to the bush. And when I came back to the US and I saw how COVID actually affected people, I was like, I got to skip all that. That is crazy because for that whole time that everyone was in isolation, like I was enjoying myself in the African bush. It was very, but then of course I couldn't get home. So I was supposed to be there for like 6 months and I was there for 8 months because I couldn't get home. And I'll tell you, the only reason I got home is because I'm a dual citizen to the UK. And I called our US embassy and I was like, hey, I'm trying to get home. My visa's out. Like, I need to get back to the States. And they were like, I'm a Marine. And I was like, oh, yay. Can you help me? And they were like, Marine. And I was like, okay, we're going to call the British embassy. And then they were like, bing, bam, boom, you're home, sweetie. And I was like, wow, love that. Thank you so much. So that was really cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so I did skip the whole COVID thing.
Good
Got
for
a bit
you,
lucky on that as well.
It was a nightmare. I just before Aaron switches gears, because he has a couple questions for you. I just want to know what did the average day look like for you doing that in that position, in that role?
So,
can you just a day from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night? Can you just explain that? Because that's fascinating.
And I actually, when I did come home, I did have an art gallery. So being a photographer, I photographed my journey. I also kept a journal. So when I did return to the US, I had a full print art gallery where I sold my prints, and I did have my journal on display with the everyday in and out of what we did. And that was very fun and very cool. So basically, there were two groups of guys. One that was out during the night, one that would start in the morning and go till midday for the next guys to come in through the night, right? Basically, every day we had the expectation to find certain rhinos. They have collars or ankle monitors, right? That we have our little beep 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 stick, right, and it tells us how close we are to those animals. You have a question?
Do you know what? Because we're as falconers, we're very familiar with beep beep beep. Do you know? Was it a UHF or 216?
I have a photo of it. I have a photo of it. I could send you a photo of it.
Cool. I'd love to see that.
I can't remember the unit
I'd love to
name.
see it because the falconers.
And
we would
I just
know.
remember the one time that Infanza let me use it. He just said, "Get away! You're too short," and took it off me. So. Just nice that was, but I was standing on the car and everything. He was like, "Nah, you're too short," and he just like takes it off me. I was like,
it was probably too far out of range. You had to get higher or something like that. But yeah, talk us through an average day.
So that would be our first thing in the morning. We wake up probably around 4 a.m. I would imagine. I can't remember the exact time that we woke up. Anyways, we would wake up, still dark out. We'd go ahead and, get our lunch packed and all that. Guys would get the dogs loaded up. We'd pack our bags and all that. And then we head out to the highest point of our section for that day. So within the reserve, we have different people stationed in different sections because it's a lot of range. So you have different sections. And then within those sections, you have certain rhinos that you have to find each morning and each evening so that we can get eyes on them, make sure they're okay and all that. So yeah, so we'd go out, go to the highest point. We'd, stick around for a while, try to find the little beep, 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 get an idea of the direction we needed to go in, go down there. And then once we were in that area, just looking for the rhino, there'd be the guys on the back. We'd have the dogs in the car. Once we had found all of the rhino for that morning and got visual on all of them, then we would do training. And so that's then when we would set up for whatever we're going to work on for that day. So we did a significant amount of man trailing and a significant amount of article searches for evidence retrieval. And that's primarily for ammunition, for weapons. A lot of times if the poachers are hearing the buckies coming down the road or they are, closing in, then they'll bury them or they'll stash them somewhere, because the big key indicator that someone is going to rhino poach would be a high caliber weapon, a weapon capable of taking that animal down. So if you don't have that on you, you just be like, oh, I'm meat poaching. No. But if we have that there's ammo and there's a weapon, then we know what you're here for. So that was a big element that we trained for when I first got to the main unit that I trained at, because when I first got into Africa, I stayed on Canine Conservation's main base, and we worked a lot with just kind of generalizing our knowledge with detection and where those dogs that were in that area were in their training, as well as snare removal. And that was a huge element in that area, especially for the farm properties, removing snares. But so to go into the more exciting stuff is when I kind of went over to the other unit in a different reserve. And that reserve was going to have, I think we had, let me think, we had like maybe 10 guys, I think. Maybe, just bad memory. Shoosh. But anyways, we had a nice big unit and we were in the base camp. It was an old slaughterhouse that was transitioned into the barracks. So we'd get up, find all the rhino. Once we did that, we had our chance to start training. And that would be when we started to do whatever we wanted to work on. Primarily the man trailing. That's my absolute love. I love nose work in general. There's just nothing better than watching a dog, figuring odor out. But when I got there, the dogs we had were quite young. They had a trainer out a couple months beforehand, a Tar Heel trainer actually, and they had done a lot of work on article searches and stuff. But their man trailing techniques included a lot of cueing. They would drop a lot of rags along the trail, or they'd tie rags in the tree behind them to let the handlers know where to go so they couldn't fail. And that isn't going to help anybody. Not to mention the men holding the leashes of these dogs, they can track better than half the dogs, right? So they don't really, because this is what would happen, right? We'd be going and the dog would be like, right, we go this way. And the handler would go, no, man, there's spoor going this way. We go this way. We follow the spoor that way. And the dog's like, nah, bro, we go this way. And then you end up, the handler takes the dog this way. They go their roundabout way. And boom, they end up where the dog was going to take them if they had just gotten the fuck out of their dog's way and trusted their dog, right? So we had to work through some little hiccups just in their dog's kind of handler neediness and things like that. And then just kind of reward things. There was, oh yeah, you did it at the end of the trail. And I'm like, bro, you just met crackhead Cam. We're about to do puppy parties, bro. It's about to get wild. You all are about to get a Mickey Mouse voice. It's about to get crazy. And let me tell you, if I can get multiple units of anti-poaching men to Mickey Mouse the fuck out, you can praise your fucking dog in front of your bros. Okay? Good. Now that that's covered,
I think
we did a lot of really fun things.
a lot of us, if were honest with ourselves, a lot of the men listening, we've done the Mickey Mouse voice many a time when our dog did something good. They love that.
It comes out. But when you do end up, again, before I ended up in South Africa, I worked with some correctional officers, and that kind of, I've walked into training with correctional officers, gone to shake a hello, shake their hand, and they've just completely let me just walked right past me. So there's definitely, a bit of energy of like, we're here because we're cool sometimes. And that's where it's like, all right, we're here because we're here for the dog. We're here to have fun, actually. So, that was so fun to see the guys just so like taking everything that like just so thirsty for knowledge and just so ecstatic about learning and just taking in new information, how willing and how open they were to it. Whereas, in other situations, there's a lot of, well, this is how we've always done it. And that is poison, especially when it comes to our LEO or working canines. So it was definitely a good time. A lot of handler drills. There are quite a bit of videos that I've posted. They're low quality videos because back then the phone I had was garbage. But there's a lot of photography on my Gala page. If you scroll for a while, there's a lot of footage of some of my handler stuff. I have a couple videos I made from the time being there. So it was pretty good. But forgot what the main question was of that.
What kind of dogs were you using?
Okay, so the first unit that I showed up to, we had they very much liked their Weimaraners. I'm not really on that train. They then also had they did have a group of American Coonhounds, and those man trailing beasts were fun. They were a good time, and they've been working on integrating those into their units as well. We did a lot of man trailing with those guys, naturals as it would be. And then they had one dog named Hashtag, and that dog, that was a cool mix. He was a bloodhound with a Doberman. And I will say, not very many brain cells, but the boy could smell things. So what else do you need, right? Like, there you go. And then when I went over to the second unit, when I went over to one of the other spots I went to just for a couple training days, they had some German Shepherds and Mals. The main unit I spent a significant amount of time out where I really developed those young dogs. Those were Malinois Dutch Shepherd cross that they had produced there out of the female, actually my boss's female. So Zaka was the father. I think actually it wasn't Zaka, but anyways, point being. And we had a full Malinois. He was an older dog when we were there, but unfortunately one day we left for our patrol and he had FOMO enough that when some hyenas came into our camp to rummage through our trash, he ended up jumping out and chasing them. And I ended up finding him once we realized he was missing and he had passed away. So they had killed him. So that was a pretty rough moment. There's a lot of memories of that. We were out in the bush, and it was very, very interesting because we had come up on this watering hole, and there was this hyena, and it was laying there, and I got some really nice photos of it, and when it stood up, it was limping, and we were like, that's like, okay, whatever. And then at that moment, we got a call saying, he's missing. We don't know where he is. He's not in his kennel. And we flew back to camp, and all of us in the back of the bucky are just screaming his name, calling for him. We all bail out of the bucky. We're swarming the campsite, swarming the kennels, swarming the woods all around, or the bush all around. And I ended up finding a blood trail. So I did end up following the blood trail in, and Santo, who this was his first dog. This was his first anti-poaching partner. And he had just finished the kennel system that he was going to take him back to his home for retirement. And he had just finished that, preparing to bring him home from the bush to retire him. But the boy wanted to go the way he wanted to go, man. He went chasing, he went fighting, he did what he what he loved doing. He's always a pestral, so he always was out there causing a ruckus, and that's how he went out fighting. So once I followed the blood trail in and I found the body, I took his collar off and I walked back out and I just stopped in Clanfa and I just gave him the collar and I said, it's over. And that was a very emotional moment. We all definitely took some time to just kind of sit in the grass, and then we went ahead and got a wheelbarrow and we went through with the burial and a nice little ceremony. So that was cute. And he was very honored. So he went out the way he wanted to go. There was no other way he was going to go. He said, "You ain't retiring me. I'm going to go out with a bang."
I'd imagine that the bush is probably a pretty dangerous place for a dog to be without its humans with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the first time I went back to South Africa just for a trip, I was at a conservation group in Balule, and they had a dog they told me about that was taken by a crocodile. So
I love
gotta keep an eye on your kids. Very easy place to
Aaron's showing
go.
us his tattoo of a crocodile on his arm, just for the listeners.
Well, you think very nice. It's you think it's not too far, or you think it's far from home, but even Ashton, who we were talking about earlier, the game bred pit bull enthusiast, he had one of her American bullies taken right in front of her by a alligator here in Low Country. So, and this was a 65-pound dog on land, and the gator came up and made quick work of that. So, and she did all she could. She got in that water with him, but she couldn't get her dog back. So the things happen, man. No matter where you're at, things are going to happen, you know? Animals are animals.
We've talked to falconers who've lost hawks while out hunting to alligators.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, they're serious predators. So what happened to the poachers when you guys found them?
So, at the time that I showed up at the main camp I stayed at and working the Dutch Malinois puppies, that's kind of the main place I stayed at. So that's where a lot of my stories are going to kind of come from. So imagine a bunch of four Malinois Dutch Shepherd, gangly, like almost 2-year-old, like fun puppies. But yeah, so sorry, repeat the question. And
what
getting
happened
hungry.
to the poachers when you found them?
Right. Okay. So that group had that actual reserve. We, at that point, they had the reputation. They had not had any large game or meat poachers on their reserve for 6 years. And that is due to their reputation on how they handle confronting poachers. So there are definitely plenty of stories, some that were told in detail and some that were not.
Can you share some of those stories?
Just on one comes to mind. I do have one that comes to mind. And it essentially one of the last times that they had found large animal poachers on the reserve that they had been on, there was a conversation about not doing that and not coming back. And there was also an interaction between another rock, and a man's testicles. So
good.
That leaves an impression. And so let's talk about that for a second too, right? Because there is obviously so much disdain towards what we here as a poacher, right? We hear poacher and we're like, fuck them up, like let the lions on them. And yeah, okay, like we want them to stop. We want them to like not be doing what they're doing. We also have to understand though, like, I don't know if it's the socioeconomics or what the terminology would be for it, but we have to understand why those people are poachers in the first place. And the layers of poaching that are actually at play. When it comes to that man who got his manhood crushed, right? He most likely is the very lowest of the low on the ladder of what really, like, who we really should be crushing balls, right? The people that really deserve that treatment are actually the upper level syndicate, people running the syndicates, specifically in the Asian areas, supply and demand, right? These things are happening because they're being demanded. And the people that are actually in the bush taking those lives and sawing horns off, those are actually the small fish. Yeah, we can knock as many of those out, but a big gangster man's going to walk into the next village down the street and go, "Who wants some money?" It's the least amount of money out of this entire process, but it's more than what you have right now. And so I definitely like to point out the fact that shooting all the poachers we come across is not actually a viable solution. And listen, like, we shoot on sight, bro. Like, if it's you and me and like our animals and stuff like that, like, we have our job to do. Absolutely. But at the same time, taking those people out does nothing but restock the supply of new soldiers, or whatever you want to call them, of new poachers, because where we really need to be cracking down is with the upper level gangs and syndicates that are in play funding this.
Well, if it comes down to feeding your family or shooting an elephant, or whatever, rhino, elephant, whatever, I don't think there's really
Right.
a choice for a lot of people.
There isn't, and those are the people that were shooting dead and going, "Yeah, get them." It's like, okay, cool. You just made another orphan. You just made another single mom who can't go work because she's got babies, or she doesn't have access, or she's not educated, or whatever the situation might be. She can't go work because she has to stay home and take care of the kids. Now her husband, who went out to go get money, is also, dead. And just to go back to kind of COVID, right? Like, during COVID, we started running out of meat in the grocery stores. That's when we first got our first meat poachers back on our reserve. First time we had meat poachers back on our reserve for 6-something years. When, people are trying to support themselves, right? And when it comes down, like, sure, to the meat poaching, there's that. And it's detrimental, it's devastating. Snares are incredibly destructive and indiscriminate devices that are going to decimate an ecosystem. I personally had to shoot a wildebeest in the forehead because we spent the entire evening trying to get this thing recovered from being in a snare for 2 days, and she couldn't recover. And I shot her in the head and I ate her. But it was the only choice,
How
because
was
what
that?
else is going to happen? Sorry.
Was that tasty?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really bleed her out that great, so it was a little gamey. But hey, listen, I also ate one of the oldest laying hens I've ever eaten while I was there. That bitch was tough. Should have been a stew. Yeah,
Man,
but
that's
it's not as
some
simple
crazy
as just
stuff. So,
wiping out the people in front of you. It takes education, it takes infrastructure, and it takes people actually looking at those the supply, the demand, right? The people who are actually, because take it this way, right? You can farm rhino horn. You obsessed with this like rhino horn bullshit? Yeah, y'all can farm that crap. You can cut that off and farm it, right? But that's not the point. The point is the suffering, right? Because it comes down to it comes down to like big money people who are wanting this resource. They will ask for the rhino's ear or their eye to go along with the horn to prove that it came from a real living animal, not farmed. So they're not just looking for, this is a tradition. This is a culture, right? This is integrated in their lifestyles. So there are reasonable ways to flood the market with rhino horn, but it's not of the quality that those people are wanting, and that's why those things are still happening. and lives are still being taken, right? So
we know a poacher in Maryland that we might want to
All right, Eric.
stick some of these dogs on. Maybe you could take the game bred pit bulls up to Maryland, deal with him.
they were just up there. You missed your
We could have given you
moment.
a scent trail
Maybe
to
next
follow. You would have found him pretty quick.
There you go.
He leaves off
Hell
quiet.
yeah.
He leaves off quiet. It's all just inside jokes, but I agree with you. I've seen all the
Fine.
videos.
I'm used to being out of the loop. It doesn't bother me one bit.
All right.
Long-term
Smile and
listeners
wave.
will know.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and I've watched all the videos and all the documentaries, and it's like you said, you can't allow the poaching to continue, but at the same time, removing poachers or punishing them or recruiting them, it doesn't really stop.
There has to be other approaches as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really stop because the next guy is just going to try to get the money and get out there, and he thinks he can get it, and it's just a vicious cycle, and it's from a completely different country, so it's going to be very difficult to change. You'd have to basically change the culture in that country in order to stop this from happening, essentially.
Well, and it's primarily Asian derived cultures that are seeking these medicinal resources, which, as we all know, there is no medicinal value to a rhino horn.
Yeah, like they
make you strong.
Like there's literally
rhino.
like they make like we have Viagra. Like you don't need rhino horn anymore. Like
right,
relax,
like
bro.
chill,
Just go to
bro.
your doctor.
But I mean, even as we acknowledge the absolute ridiculousness of the concept of that having like any type of effect, there's also a status element to it where if you've got a big old rhino horn on your business shelf behind you, like there's a status element to that with these types of people as well. So even if maybe they've evolved past the medicinal use, they still have other excuses for why they would need those types of things.
I completely understand. I think at this stage of the game, if I was there, and obviously I'd be the best president ever, but I would literally I would just enforce my agents and people like yourself to just instill such a level of fear to try to poach that you would just be like, no matter how much money they offer me, I'm not going to do it.
If your child is dying in front of you, you're not going to risk it? If your child is starving and you have no access to healthcare and you have no car to go into town, you have no money and it's COVID and there's no food on the shelves, like you're not going to go set up a piece of wire in your backyard and hope something gets hung up in it? Really?
That's a really good point. No, it's a good point.
He already does that.
It's not. Fear doesn't. I mean, if we're going to talk about dog training as well, right? How well does fear teach? I wouldn't say fear teaches very much.
No, because some people just...
Or if it does, it's not teaching you what you intend.
Right. And some people just don't... I still see people like where I watch these crazy videos and the cops got the dog out and they're like, get on the ground or we're going to, release the dog. And they still don't get on the ground. And then they cut the dog loose on them.
Okay, well, in that moment, maybe we're talking about narcotics as well.
Not even. It's just pure stupidity and just ignorance. And I understand what you're saying. And it's an uphill battle, but it has to be funded. And as long as
there's no one answer, there's no one solution. There's no one answer. There's no one person that can make a difference, right? Like it's about us all being more educated and, being more responsible with the knowledge and the information that we have so that we are, able to share that and continue the growth of moving forward with new mindsets.
100%.
So I'm sure this is going to be a tough one, but is there any one thing that jumps out at you as a crazy situation or a crazy... Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. A crazy situation you ran into in South Africa in this line of work?
I mean, there's always going to be something happening. I'll start like kind of more in the funny tame and then kind of getting more wild. Like when, so we had, like, when you're laying trails, man trails, we are doing man trailing. So starting, drop someone off, and then we drive away with the dogs and everybody, and they go on their route. Now, whoever's walking, they're walking in the bush, and then they have at least one escort with an AK-47. And so you do have, someone with you, protection. And if it's, either that or it's, someone with two guys, right, with the AKs. But drop them off and they go, and oftentimes you'll bump into animals on your trail. So sometimes, you have to call the radio and go, "Hey, we bumped elephants. We can't be here," because elephants don't like people. A lot of elephants do not like people, specifically because of their intelligence with poaching and stuff like that. And just the week or two before I got to that reserve, we had a guy walking a trail. He bumped an elephant. He got gored, and he got the tusk through his thigh, but he survived somehow. So go him. But you have to be very careful. So lots of that. And then once you are laying your trail, you're hiding in the bush and you're being very quiet. So anything can kind of walk up on you. You're not expecting. So I've had snakes that come down from the tree and are investigating this warm lump of flesh that's sitting there hiding. Or I did have a squirrel. I have this on video. I had this squirrel run straight at me one time while I was sitting there just minding my business, and it was terrifying. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is coming at me?" And it was just this little like tree squirrel. And then I did have like a dyke, which I don't know if you know what a dyke is, but it's the tiny, tiny antelope, a little like rock dyke. So he like was bouncing all throughout the copies, and he bounced basically right over top of me. So that was kind of fun. So lots of fun just sitting and observing. I also had an impala almost take me out. I was in a more like closer to the town. And so we didn't have any large predators on that, besides leopards, obviously. We didn't have any lions or anything like that. So I was laying the trail by myself. And this impala got stuck, like I'm, at sitting in this spot. And then there's this fence corner right there. And he got stuck in this corner between me and this corner. And I was like, like, don't run me over, please. So, just a couple of funny and bumps when you're laying trails or walking trails. I think obviously the dog getting taken by the hyena was probably one of the bigger, like, crazy things that happened while I was there. We had a lion come up to the back of our dog kennels and was seeing if maybe he could come in and have a snack. And we had to all get up out of bed in the middle of the night with our sticks and our rocks and chase him off and all of that. One time I told that story and somebody said, "Why didn't you just shoot the lion?" And I was like, "Because we're anti-poaching unit, bruv. Like, that's not within line of what we're doing, my guy. It's the opposite of why we're there." That was funny. That person was pretty goofy.
Hopefully you cut that person out of your life, blocked them on social media.
Like, well, the light's not on, but so let's keep thinking. We did a couple different rhino missions, which means dehorning and recollaring a couple rhinos. So we did a couple white rhinos and we did a couple black rhinos. And black rhinos are notoriously more like, they're going to have a go at you a lot more than a white rhino. So when you're walking in to find, how I told you in the beginning with like a regular day, you wake up, find the rhinos, then do your training and all that. When you're finding the rhinos, you're often walking through the bush trying to bump up onto the rhino because they're not just standing on the side of the road like, "Hey, here, check in, good morning, see you tomorrow." No, they're like living their lives. So you have to go walk in and track them into the bush. And we did have one dog named, was her name Sage or anyways, GSP. And those were quite popular over there at the time as well. But she was a rhino tracking dog, so she specifically tracked rhino odor. So sometimes we'd use her, but most of the times it was just me and the guys going out on foot with the little beepy thing. And then, a couple times we'd come up on a black rhino and have to like pick a tree and just be ready in case they were like, "What the fuck are you here?" So, couple little moments like that. Nothing too crazy. Didn't actually get charged by any of those ones, but one of my favorite memories, and I have some of my favorite photography from this experience, was we had come into one of the low valley spots that we would patrol. And it's just one of the most gorgeous spots in that area. And relatively, good visibility, things like that. So the guy driving that day, he was going to go up, get service to check this, that, and the other on the radio. So he left myself and a couple of the guys and a couple of the dogs down in the valley to do some article searches, right? And we were doing our little gridded article searches and stuff and just getting some reps in with finding ammo, and just kind of drawing out time and duration and all of that. And while we're there, just to like set the mood, we had just found a herd of white rhino kind of up the road a bit, and it was a family, right? It's called a crash of rhinos. And so there's like a dad, like two moms, and then like two babies, like young, not super, super young, but still little idiots drinking milk. And so over there, we know they're there and we're here training. And then over through the bush just that way, we hear the roar of lions. So they're home. And they're just chilling over there, and then the occasional hyena in the distance, but we're just hanging out. And we had done our training. We're waiting for the guy to come back down the hill to collect us to go off to the next section. And we're sitting on this log, and I've got the dog just in a downstay there in front of me, and the guys are behind me, and they're on their phones, and just, we're all just kind of waiting. And we look up, and the crash of rhinos is coming through the bushes to us. And they're very curious animals, especially white rhinos. They're very curious, very playful. They're very cool. So, and they're quite gentle. They're not as aggressive as the black rhinos. So, they come out of the bushes, and the younger ones are coming closer and closer, and they're sniffing, and they're, putting their heads down. They're coming up to us. And I mean, I'm sitting here like maybe 5.5, 6 feet from these incredible creatures that aren't always going to be here. And they all have names. We know all their names. And, we're just sitting there, and they're taking us in, and we're taking them in. And the dog is like, what the hell? And, at one point, I think the dog sneezed, or he shifted his weight. And they all just bulk up. And I don't know if you've ever seen a group of horses like suddenly spook and take off bucking and farting and being crazy, but they basically did the same thing. And it was just so awesome to just be able to just be like, you're just completely out there, and it's their world, and you're just sitting in it and observing it, and it's just awe-inspiring. There's just nothing quite like it, So that was definitely a highlight moment. But there were a lot of highlight moments.
That's insanely cool stuff that you were doing.
Insanely cool. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's amazing.
It was very, very, very cool to see the progression of the dogs in their man trailing and articles specifically, and the guys in their handling was just incredible, teaching them line management and how to read their dogs. I mean, these guys didn't really even consider that their dogs were talking to them. They didn't know. They just weren't tuned in those ways. And then when I was able to start teaching them about the different body language when you're behind a dog on a man trail, and how you can read your proximity, and how you can prepare for that, and how you can not just, keep yourself safe, but keep your team safe, and formation and things like that, just really little detail things that will serve them exponentially, especially just the dog's technique.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So
their dog.
Is safety for the for the anti-poaching unit? Is that like a real concern out there when you're trailing?
It's a big concern. It's a big concern. It's a big concern just even of them being anti-poaching guys. A lot of them, we have to blur their faces. A lot of them, they aren't on social media and they aren't public in those ways. A lot of guys don't tell their families what they do, or they don't tell people what they do because they can become targets very, very quickly. Their families can become targets. They have enemies 100%. And these guys have war stories, like real war stories. So,
Are you familiar with Gorillas in the Mist and Diane Fossey?
yes, I am.
We know somebody was closely associated with her that we'll be
Wow.
talking to sometime in the near future.
We stayed at his house. But anyway, the producer of that entire series. But anyway.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's amazing.
So he's also a falconer. But as you know, I mean, she was murdered by poachers for
targeted
retaliation for her efforts to stop them. But you talking earlier about the guy getting his balls smashed between rocks, she was criticized for doing a lot of really brutal stuff to poachers and suspected poachers. There was something about them tying a dude down naked and like lashing his genitalia with whip or something.
It's a wild west out there, There's a lot going on.
Yeah, man. Like you said, there's not a definitive answer to solve the problem. I think it's like economic stimulus would be huge, giving those people an option besides going out.
And
getting
that's
them
the
to
thing
see
as
the
well
value.
is anti-poaching provides an avenue for that. Like if you look at the Black Mambas, that is a solely female group of anti-poaching warriors. And those are women who came out of their villages. Maybe they've lost their husbands. They don't have an education, and they're given these opportunities to become experts in their field. So it is absolutely, and that also goes back into the topic of, hunting and conservation and how those things can support each other, because those things do provide an avenue of income. I mean, the suffering that went on with COVID and not having tourists coming into our reserves, the incredible mass of workers that are being put off because no one's coming into the resort. So you don't need to clean or cook or take anyone on safari because we don't have anybody. And the devastation and the effect of that, obviously didn't go unnoticed.
So sorry, Aaron, but it's just I just want to just make a statement. Basically, it's just a completely different world. Basically, it's a completely different world, and there's a lot of nuance and stuff that as Americans we kind of have it good over here, where we have systems in place to protect our wildlife. We have officers that are funded through certain ways to protect our wildlife. And over there, it's kind of private entities hire companies or hire people or recruit really good poachers. They'll recruit them and say, hey, listen, you could make this much money poaching. You could make this much money helping us stop poaching. Come on our side.
And it's not a lot. Right.
It's still not a lot of money.
I mean, you're working 3 days on one or 3 weeks on 1 week off, like you're waking up split shift, you're working dawn till dusk, with equipment that's not effective with, so it is absolutely like devastating just how like many things have to go right to really make the impact and changes that need to be made. But all we can do is try to educate, try to get in there young and teach children, because Americans have a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to Africa in general. Everyone's like I grew up, oh, you're South African, why are you white? Oh, I have a memory of being very young and I was running around this park, and I had a child come up to me and say, and a child of my age, we were kids, and they said, well, if you're from Africa, why do you have shoes on? And I said, who is teaching you these things? What? So, just at the end of the day, there's so much misunderstanding and unknown from America to Africa and just in general. But yeah, it is something that catches people off guards. Like the fact that a lot of the people of the community in these rural places in South Africa, they don't have the opportunity to go on safari, to see wildlife. They don't have an appreciation for nature. They don't have an appreciation for uh, animals and the natural world that is literally just outside their house. But because they don't have access to those things, that's not what is in focus for them in their life. And so opportunities like Bush Babies is a company that goes out and takes education to schools and teaches kids about lions and takes kids on safari and shows them, look at these incredible animals that you can appreciate and have love towards and protect, and getting in there young to help them understand that these aren't just something that you can take as a resource, and they have more value than just meat.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I don't have, like I said, we talked about it earlier in the show, but I don't have an agenda, but I just can't help. No. So Aaron always thinks I'm going like right wing on every question I have to ask. But I don't have an agenda with the trophy hunting, but it just seems like, and you would correct me if I'm wrong, but like, it just seems like with the trophy hunting, that's such a huge income for that area and for that ecosystem that without it, there'd be a problem. Don't you think?
And so there's another element to that as well, just that I didn't touch on, got distracted by when we were talking about this earlier, with the, like, trophy hunting and big game hunting, right? Shall we say big game hunting, just take trophy out of it. But these animals, like, for example, elephants whose lives are auctioned off for hunting, like, usually those are the elephants that are breaking the fences, causing problems, young juveniles that are creating issues, right? Or they have a surplus, they have too many elephants in one area, and that starts to destroy the ecosystem because elephants are our construction unit. They move everything around and they can be quite destructive. But like, sure, you sell that life of that animal and someone comes on safari and they, buy that hunting package that takes them through the experience of tracking that animal and finding it in the property that it's in and staking it out and doing whatever they do and killing it, right? Then they get their photo and they get whatever and they take the parts that they feel are valuable, and the rest does go to villages and the rest does go to people who, it's not like they just leave the carcass and they're like, end scene. So that is the right way to go about things. Those are ways that are funding conservation, but the problem lies in finding the right companies, the right people to go have those experiences through. Because there are plenty of people who go out there and just buy that experience, and it may not be funding what you think it's funding. The money may not ever go where you think it's going to go. Bigger than that, there's also the element of, have you heard of canned hunting?
Yeah.
Like high fence, fake
right,
kind of
so
thing.
Can hunting is going to be like, you have like a lion farm where they just breed lions, take the trophy lion that has the beautiful mane and his big boy, whatever, pull him out of his fishbowl, put him in a new space, and it's a canned hunt. It's pretend. It's not a wild lion. You know where the lion's going to be. Sometimes they just come in and shoot them through the fence. They just want the corpse and they just want the trophy, the head. And those are disgusting practices. Those are not the people to give your money to. Those are not the experiences to be going with, right? And I think that that's also where people can get lost and misdirected, because obviously in any endeavor, there's people doing it one way and people doing it the other way. And you have to be able to do your research and troubleshoot and investigate, do your reconnaissance on where you're putting your money. But that, I could take that and go straight into, in America, people picking dogs. And we could go right back to talking about breeding and breeders and puppy selection and placing and pairing breeds with homes and pet homes and all of that, you know? So it is all, you know, connected in one way or another.
Sounds like just you need to do your research before you get a dog, before you go on a safari. Find out what they're offering.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, when
Find out where your money is going when you invest in that experience, because you go and invest in something like I think it's Trans Africa or Trans Africa, Trans Frontier Africa, I believe, is one of the travel groups I went through, and they provide experiences in conservation groups like Balule and stuff like that. And you know, those are people that are directly connected to conservation efforts, you know. But being able to be educated in what you're investing in.
100%. Listen. You can't go. You can't be a dentist and go to Africa and shoot a lion, and then tell your friends, "Oh, but I invested in conservation," without knowing exactly what the safari that you paid $75,000 to. Where did that money go? You got to do your research and figure it out before you start throwing money around. You know what I mean? And that's a really good point that you bring up.
Many people, you know, would take that approach. But we do live in a very instant gratification world. So, you know, people can get carried away with click button. And, you know, when it comes to any type of genuine effort, you definitely need to put the energy in the front half to make sure you're not misdirected. And what does that all come down to? Education, knowledge, sharing knowledge.
Well, Cam, thank you for sharing these experiences with us. And I thought we might get into some dog training, but we got pretty crazy
went
with
around
Africa.
The dog training a little bit. That was a lot of topics, but my ADHD loved it. Hopefully I, was knowledgeable with the things I spoke on. I definitely don't claim to be a know-it-all in all of these different areas, but I do know that with the time that I spent in South Africa and with what I did, boots on the ground, the focus was 100% on those dogs, creating solid man trailers, solid evidence retrieval dogs, and, you know, other facets that just assist those guys when they're out and about, including obedience, being able to communicate fluidly. So that was definitely where I stepped in, and I was able to share a lot, and it was an incredible experience for sure. And I definitely plan on getting back there as soon as I can. I just need someone to run my pet company for me while I'm gone. So if anybody wants to do that, hit me up.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if somebody wants to hire you to do work, where can they find you?
So my pet training company is called Dogmanity Pet Academy. I'm on all of the social media. It's dog and humanity put together, so Dogmanity. And then my working dog stuff is the Vigela Canine, which is Vikela. And so, again, you know, pet dogs, service dogs. I do some personal protection work with clients that I've been working with for years. You know, we do nice slow development stuff like that if I've known you for a while. And if you can handle your dog. But other than that, we really focus on the pet dogs in the Dogmanity company. And then Vigela, I really focus on developing my personal Vorbles in personal protection work, of course. My Patterdale does detection and man trailing as well as article retrieval. And I do plan on imprinting my male Vorble most likely on firearms. I do plan on taking him over to South Africa with me the next time that I go. And him being imprinted on firearms would definitely be beneficial. So that's most likely where I'm going next with him. But yeah, Just Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. I'm out there.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.